I know I make that point a lot, but it's key. We don't not only have to pay all that money back in taxes that's given to the foreign banks, predominantly, but we have to pay them interest. The banks we give the money to, we then pay them interest on money we gave them, because that's how the fractional reserve banking system is set up. These aren't really banks. These are money-changing fraudsters. But I will just go back to this website, usaservice.org, and it's got these videos of First Lady Obama going, things are going to get really bad. They're going to get really tough. Well, yeah, they know it's all engineered. Take their new Treasury Secretary they've nominated. Doesn't even pay his income taxes. Was told years ago, and he said, I don't care, I don't have to pay it. Who do you write your IRS check to? The Federal Reserve, the private bank that owns this country, through fraud. I've seen reports where over 65% of Congress doesn't pay taxes. We're here to pay taxes. The elites don't pay these taxes. The income tax goes to pay interest on the debt to the private banks that allow us to issue our own currency. It doesn't run the country. We didn't have an income tax till 1913, along with the Federal Reserve Act. We didn't have an income tax above 1% until the early 1950s. We've only had about 58 years of this. But the public thinks this is how life is, thinks that being regulated and controlled, and then they're not stopping there. They're going with the carbon tax over every facet of our lives, everything we do. So this has already been a 20-plus minute breakdown, complete with all of my hand-wringing. I think the most important thing to say here at the end is he must be stopped, and he must be stopped now. Now, this is a paradox. Again, he is a puppet. He is a front man. He is controlled by all these powerful interests. But through the vessel, through the name, through the whole cult of Obama, they can use classical tribalism to rally the population to do whatever he says, and that you've got to do what he says, or the crisis is just going to get worse. But if you do whatever he says, and every pundit in the media in unison is saying, well, the big challenge is for the American people. They've sent him here for change, but now they've got to get behind him if they want to see that change. But then look at what the change he's promising. Unlimited power, expanded, trillions more for the banks, a new Federal Reserve they're calling a government bank. You read the fine print, it's a new private bank to issue more bonds that U.S. taxpayers have to pay to back. Bringing in all the old Clinton people and all the old Bush people, the Bush 41, the Bush 43 people. Just every policy. And then on gun control. He really did introduce bills for total gun bans in Chicago and Illinois, statewide. He really did at the federal level introduce those. He really does believe. He filed briefs, and his new attorney general filed briefs, Holder, saying all guns should be banned. They're really doing that, and they've really introduced a bill that I've been covering in the last few weeks that says that the attorney general at his pleasure can ban all semi-automatics or all rifles and handguns, anything he wishes. So again, ceding executive power. Just like Congress passed a bill back on October 3rd, 2008, saying, well, the Treasury now has unlimited power, the Federal Reserve has unlimited power, they can do whatever they want, and it can all be done in secret, and no court or no government can review it. That was in the bill. I read the subsection on air over and over again. Meanwhile, they were on the news every day saying, the bill has total transparency and will immediately get rid of all this toxic subprime derivatives. And then here they are, 4 months later, saying we've got to have another banker bailout bill to unclog those derivatives. 24 hours hadn't passed when Henry Paulson on the 4th of October, the day after, on Saturday, when they passed it, said, oh, we're not going to use that for subprime now, and we're not going to tell you where the money went. And the media still says $700 billion, when it's really $8.5 trillion just in the U.S. alone, over $1 trillion in England, close to $1 trillion in France. Their public is being looted by the private central banks, and they're openly announcing in Newsweek and Time and everywhere else, A world government run by the bankers. Headlines: a world bank for world government. The bankers will fix the economic crises. You'll pay carbon taxes to them, and they will standardize the world currencies. You'll still have your local currency, your national currency, but it'll be standardized, and its value will be set by them. The interest rates will be set by them, and you will pay your taxes directly to them. Well, we already pay them to the Federal Reserve, which is a regional bank of England. So, I mean, this is world government. This is everything that was foretold openly happening. Everything the Club of Rome, everything the CFR, everything the Trilateral Commission said that they were going to do, it is now happening. This is the time in history when this is all unfolding. But the establishment has hitched their wagon and everything behind Obama because they had to do it. They had to have a fascist mass movement. They had to get real grassroots support because Congress had a 9% approval rating. Cheney had a 9% approval rating. Bush had a 21% approval rating. Hillary has an 18% approval rating. Everybody was learning the government was lying and crooks and corrupt. But they weren't sophisticated enough. Well, a lot of folks are awake, but that portion out there that's still gullible, that the media then points at and says, oh, look, everybody loves Obama. Everybody trusts the government again. They weren't sophisticated enough to understand that Bush was just a front man and a puppet and a vehicle. So they're baiting and switching to Obama. But whereas before they'd have the left-right paradigm and act like some sides were good, some sides were bad, and play that out, they're going for total unification now to get the public to get behind the government and to do what it says and to trust and believe in Barack Obama, and to think that he really has their best interest at heart with that Ted Bundy, fake smile he's got, so that they can get this agenda through. And that's what Obama has said. It's going to be a blitzkrieg of action if I'm going to save you. It's going to be a blitzkrieg of action if I'm going to be able to reverse all of this for you, and you've got to all get behind me in the first 150 days, and we've got to ram every piece of this agenda through. And he never says what the agenda is because he knows how to keep it simple. The public wants to hear something simple so that they can just believe it's easy, and they don't have to worry about the future, they don't have to worry about the economy, they don't have to worry about wars. Meanwhile, he's saying he's probably going to go into Iran. He's saying they're going to beef up things in Afghanistan. They're going to stay in Iraq. They're going to have amnesty program for the illegal aliens. They're going to have gun control. They're going to have all these new taxes and regulations and hundreds of new taxes on the whole entire carbon system. This has nothing to do with the environment, folks. This is total control of civilization. And it's all stated by NPR, brags. And these big foundations brag how they want to break up the family, how they want to get us all in the government tit, how they want to make us subservient to the system, how we live too well, how we're wasteful, how they want to lower our standard of living. And it's all done to give them centralized control. They don't want independent, free families and communities. They want us all under their control. So by design, they destroy the economy. And the Pentagon's bragging, hey, the economy falling apart, we've suddenly got plenty of recruits. The economy falling apart, and suddenly people don't see it as George Bush's military, so they're all signing up to go serve again for Barack Obama. So they get the volunteers for the military. They can then bring in the compulsory stuff for the high school students and the college students, which they're proposing. They can then always point and say, well, look, we've got millions of volunteers. They're just out at soup kitchens. You're not against what we're doing. When the real program is training 1 million domestic spies, in their own words, to spy on their neighbors. But whenever you bring it up to your neighbor, they'll go, well, we feed the homeless. See, again, they set it up with something that sounds good, something that sounds free, with this multifaceted government force compulsory service, and then these giant volunteer brigades of do-good, feel-good people who feel like they're part of the government, who feel like they're being listened to, who feel like they're out doing good work, and because they're out feeding homeless people, then psychologically they see the entire agenda as a beautiful, wonderful, good thing that they've all got to go along with and get behind it. Anybody that doesn't go along with it is standing in the way. I want to tell the American people something. I've studied history, and let me tell you, 99.9% of the time, literally, that's not a figure of speech. In fact, it's more than that. There have been thousands and thousands of governments. There are 180-something countries. There have been thousands of governments just in the last 100 years. There have been tens of thousands of governments throughout history. You can count on one hand semi-free societies. in the vast majority of the time, it is enslavement, it is death, it is destruction, it is a mass horde of mobilized population to serve the elite, who the elite use to go after their competition or historically any middle class groups that may rival them in the future. It's like the Khmer Rouge being funded by the British SAS, being trained, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Obama's handler, bragging in 2 of his books that the U.S. funded the Pol Pot, killing 3 million people. And if any of you think you're any less expendable than the Iraqis, 3 million dead in the last 18 years of bombardment, siege, and 6 years of occupation, if any of you think the elites care a rat's ass about you, if any of you fools out there worshiping and groveling at this guy and believing all of the slick Madison Avenue propaganda, you have no idea what you're in store for. You have no idea how hardcore this is. You have no idea how you were indoctrinated with all this fake liberal guilt and all this crap and sold that America was a bad, wicked society so that you'd be triggered and prepared that when they finally brought in a black messiah, you would go along with the entire agenda.